1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Yeah. Guess who's here a day early? Yep.
Tom Sokolowski.
Tom Sokolowski. Former Grand Domo of the Warhol.
Grand Domo.
You
it
know,
means they open the door. Come on in.
Come on in. The Warhol, by the way, I saw something. There was some news about people fighting over a Warhol. This one.
Yes.
Ryan O'Neal.
Yes.
Farrah Fawcett's husband. Apparently, Warhol did a portrait of her, which is pretty famous, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, along with all this other stuff.
But he also gave Ryan O'Neal something, too.
Well, see, the issue was, and where the museum, I'm surprised the museum hasn't been brought into this, but what they're trying to figure out is who owned, there were two portraits. Generally, Warhol only gave someone one, but I can't remember why, or if I knew why, he gave Farrah two. And the question is, did she own one and he own the other, which is what he's saying. But one of the interesting pieces of evidence I remember hearing about when this first thing started a few years ago. I mean, the issue is she, on her death, bequeathed all of her art collection and other things
to her alma mater,
the University of Texas, because she was an art student there before she became an actress. And the reason I know this was we did an exhibition with her, which was a very strange exhibition of an artist from Chicago, from the south suburbs of Chicago, named Keith Edmeyer. And he was younger than Farrah and had long admired her. You know, he had her red bikini poster on his wall as a teenage boy. And then as he grew up, he was starting to go back to, he reproduced his parents' kitchen in the south suburb of Chicago as one of his artworks. So he called Farrah and said, could he use her as a model? And she said, okay, but only if you let me equally do you, because I'm an artist too. So they did this thing where they, for 3 or 4 months, I think in Sicily and then in LA, they both did these clay models, naked models of one another, and then they were one was cast in bronze and one was carved in stone by stone carvers. And the exhibition first opened at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, and then we brought it to the Warhol because we figured stardom, etc. But the reason I'm telling you of all that is, and pardon my prolix, is that when we requested the two portraits, because we did not own one of those portraits, she had both of them, she signed the loan firm saying, these are my paintings, I will loan them to you.
Both are mine.
Yes, so
you're saying
that's evidence. She said it. Now, she could have been fraudulent, but anyway. So then she supposedly, according to him, lent it, one of the portraits, to him for his house. And then when they were off, when they divorced, he sent it back to her because he said, oh, my new girlfriends don't like to see you, especially at the moment of your radiant beauty. So it was back at her house. Now, he contends that on her deathbed, and people may remember she died a rather awful death of anal cancer and was very ill for quite a long time, a year before. And that during that time she may have been dithery, did she indeed give it to him, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's funny because the thing I laughed at was that in part of the court hearings, as the paper reported them, he was saying, oh, well, it's worth $1 million. Well,
It's worth
Warhol's portraits.
more than $1 million.
More than $1 million. And it's a rather unique image. It's really one of the more, I would say, engaging of his portraits. So, yeah, it could easily be 30 to 50 million. And
well, why in a place like, and so both are the same portrait?
Yes, right.
So
with various color variations.
Okay,
as he
so
would do. Yes, but
why don't people? I guess because so much money's involved, but it seems to me if you got two parties and they're arguing over essentially two likenesses that are, why don't they just say, here, you take that one and I'll take this one?
Well, but if Warhol gave them to her, as opposed to saying, here's two for the couple. Now, he contends that, he had introduced Farah to Andy, and, who knows? They were reigning beautiful stars in the moment.
Right,
so who knows? But
I can't see Andy Warhol stiffing Ryan O'Neal in his prime.
Well, no, but at night, if he gave them to Farah, and then she maybe lent one or whatever to him, that Warhol had nothing to do with it.
Right, but...
And then, to show you his character, at some funeral of someone who was in the family, his daughter, Tatum, the little girl who was in that, what was it called, Paper Moon, they had been estranged for many years because he was supposed to be a skank.
He's a jerk.
At the funeral, he came up behind her, only saw the backside of her, and tried to make a pass for her, his own daughter.
That's true. Yeah, he's a...
Skanky daddy.
Yeah, he's... Skank, I think of as a female.
Well, a skunk, I guess.
Yeah, a skunk, not a skank. He seems like an awful person with anger issues.
But it was one of these situations where... And who knows? Maybe it's true. I have no way of knowing. I met the woman.
So did Farah come here for the thing?
Oh, yes. And she was really lovely.
Was she?
Really lovely. The funniest thing was one of our deputy director picked her up at the airport. And I said, can't we just send a car? Well, no, they asked that, And I said, all right. It was late at night coming from L.A. I said, I owe you one. She said, I really needed to go, Tom. I said, you have to call, She said, as soon as she arrived, and they got her out first, because she sat in first class, people in the airport, Farah, went up to her.
Sure.
So Colleen said they got one of those, golf carts, and they went off. And then she was staying at the Renaissance. So we had all set this all up, and they said, Miss Farah, blah, blah, blah. So Colleen, my colleague, said, I'll go up with you to make sure everything's... So they had made a mistake, and when they went up, and Colleen opened the door, it was like a broom closet with a fold-out bed. And Farah said, am I going to sleep there? So they went down, and no, we had a suite, and everything was fine. But she, for the 2 days she was there, she was polishing up her sculpture.
She was very serious.
Oh, very serious. And I remember we sat on the floor and had sandwiches brought in like we did, when there was a working crew. And I remember how we got to it, but my mother at that point was going fairly seriously into Alzheimer's, and hers were beginning. So we had long discussions about that, and I remember she said about her son, the one who I guess is still in jail for drug selling and use. She said, that kid, I avoided any kind of epidurals when he was being born to make sure that nothing would be in his body. And now,
God.
But she was she was a star. But really nice, not sort of... the artist was less so, because when he came... Do you remember Jean Horn, who used to
Sure.
Yeah. Well, she came
Jean Horn did the, the gossip, the scene column for the Tribune. Review.
And she was quite a...
She attacked me at an event.
Oh, she attacked me too, but we sort of made friends. But she always looked like something out of a silent movie.
Yeah, she
like
did.
Gloria Swanson.
Exactly.
We had faces in
yes,
those
I
days.
know. She's scary.
But anyway, she came up, and of course, all she cared about were pictures of Farah, for her point of view.
Of course.
And Keith wanted pictures, and she said, darling, if you're going to get a photo, it must be with your co-artist. I just remember that. And he turned sort of green. It was great.
can't remember why. Oh, she attacked me because of something I'd said about Richard Mellenskate. She
Ditto.
came at me
she
at
was-
an event, and it was rude. It
Well,
was
to her
beyond belief.
credit,
just
she
was
was
sort of
loyal
like,
to him, but
Whoa.
she defended him like.
she was ready to take me
Oh,
down.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
no, yeah. So you got the same treatment.
Oh yeah, for something I said about him.
Jeez. I can't remember. I was talking to somebody, and she like just came at me. It was at Heinz Field or something.
But one thing I always admired about her, she and that other guy. Well, he left soon after I came to town, but what was his? He wrote for the Post Gazette. He had a ponytail. And he was the one, I can't remember his name, but anyway.
I know who you're talking
He was the one
about.
who coined that great word, swankenda.
Swankenda. Who is that? Anybody remember? I can see him.
And the two of them would come in as being more star-like
than any
stars.
other people they were deigning to cover.
What was his name?
I don't know. We'll think of it.
Yeah.
I won't. But yeah,
Anyway.
I remember him.
So that was the whole
Scary
thing about
people.
Farrah and what have you.
Well,
So,
okay. Jeez. And the show's over. We're
But
up to our
Texas
first
still wants, $50 million.
Texas wants its Farrah Fawcett. So how was her art? Okay?
Okay.
I mean, it was
not
okay.
great, but I mean, no, it showed she was not super talented, but she's not like, some you or me who have never done anything
Yeah.
like that. No,
Yeah.
she had
Okay. Well,
she had some creds.
God almighty. Okay. I think we should take a first. Oh, no, that's 10. Oh, I'm sorry. I ain't reading it right. I saw it 20.
10 after 10.
I saw it added 10 minutes
Ah.
to it. Oh, my favorite. Did anything print out there for me, Carlo? Oh, what a bunch of crap. Okay. Never mind. It's okay. Leave it alone. I very carefully printed it. The printer doesn't work.
No.
Nothing works.
Ah,
Not
It's
that
America.
I'm complaining. Not that I'm complaining.
no, you're not.
But the thing I was trying to print out was this very funny piece. I'm in love with the Pope.
Oh, yes, the Pope.
Well, it was the.
Who sneaks out at night, it seems, to do good work.
Does he?
That's
he
what there was
sneaks out
something
too?
on one of the blogs. Yeah, he sneaks out to
He does?
to help the poor and whatever.
What do you mean? I mean, just actually does.
Yeah, that's what it said. Well, I'm sure he doesn't.
There was
sneak
a
out, but
movie
maybe
once
he
about a
went with
pope.
one guy.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
So it turns out that the Pope was a bouncer.
Yes.
Did you
Years
know
ago
that?
as
Well, I
a-
didn't know that.
Yeah, when he was a kid. I mean, young man in Buenos Aires.
He was a bar bouncer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, this
And a very
Pope-
aggressive one, supposedly.
Yeah, right. So I mean, he does. I don't know where all the other popes necessarily came from, but I think generally they were more sort of studious, intellectual
Well, as Agnes
types of.
Gooch said, you remember Agnes Gooch?
Yes.
You remember when, what's her name, Auntie Mame says, live, and she comes back pregnant and she says, I live. So this was a pope that lived.
That has lived, right. He said he was, bouncer at a nightclub, and he also ran tests in a chemical lab. He swept floors. I mean, this
And
is a
did
guy.
laundry.
And did laundry.
I don't think the Pope should have to wash his own underpants and socks. Thank you very much.
Oh, that
If you're a
brings
Pope,
me.
you have to have some.
I want a. Excuse me. I want you to weigh in on this.
All right.
Speaking of underwear and washing it.
Of which I'm an expert.
I
just throw out my dirty underwear and buy
Okay,
more.
so
Lynn. I'm one of those effete.
The gym I go to work out.
Yes.
Is in Garfield.
Uh-huh.
And it's an old industrial setting. And when I look at, every time I go, when I look out this one back window which overlooks an alley.
You see dirty underpants.
No, there's a house. I'm looking at
Okay.
the back of some houses.
Yes.
And there, every time, is hanging on a clothesline, drying,
Yes.
one pair of BVDs.
I see. Just one pair.
One pair! And it's every time. And so
Well, maybe the person has two.
well,
and he
that's
washes
what
one and
that's
then
what
puts it
I've
out.
decided. That's what I've decided. Here is somebody I think that has two pairs.
Too brief Benny. if you're out there, too brief, Benny, Lynn Cullen and I will stump you for 6 pairs of boxers.
I'm fascinated by
he's a
somebody
clean
who
boy.
has two pairs of. I mean, I hate to calculate how many the two of us have.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
exactly.
right. But, geez, can you
Color
imagine?
coordinated for the day.
But it's a very clean person because it's every very.
Well, I had one friend who was a young architect a number of years ago, and he contended he was very poor, and he said every night he'd come home, he'd wash his shirt, and then he'd get up really early and then iron it that morning, and he'd wear it. But he always wanted to look crisp and whatever, and I was really admired that.
Yeah, it is admirable.
It's very fun when you mentioned that. Something that struck me. I remember one of the things that I loved, because I grew up in working class neighborhood, etc. I love that Monday was always wash day, and all the ladies would hang like a sheets on the line, and when it was breezy, you'd see them. And I always thought that was sort of miraculous. And they would. I remember my mother did so, especially like whenever I was ill, like had a cold or something, and she'd put on fresh sheets, and that was so much part of the therapeutic.
I know. I agree. So there's that almost. And
now it's that damn hot, stinky smell from the dryer with
bounce
downy
in it or something.
Yes,
bounce.
Exactly.
Excuse me. That's sort of like
goddamn bounce. It causes cancer.
Yeah, I'm sure
Don't buy
it. So that's like a Proustian, one of those Proustian.
Yes, right.
Things,
Exactly. Like Madeleine tea.
Yeah, it just sort of pulls you back. It's such a wonderful.
But in Pittsburgh, you didn't grow up in. I was going in Pittsburgh. Supposed to
I guess
put
you
out the
could.
laundry.
Yeah, and it was black.
They put soot on your bed.
How could any?
Well, they talk about having to rewash things.
But then if you rewashed it, put it back out,
but I remember
again.
what people would do, and sometimes my mother doing this early on, hanging things in the basement.
Yeah.
When it was
then they didn't get that wonderful smell.
Well, and they would take them longer to dry too. But I also remember my mother ironing sheets.
Oh yeah. By hand, or did she have
a
mangle?
A mangle. Which I always thought was a sort of weird name. Like put it in and it'll just twist
it'll
up.
mangle
It'll
it.
look like a cruller.
It is odd because it does the exact opposite.
Yeah, it smooths things out.
But I have a recollection of my mother having a mangle. And I don't know who.
You must have been rich.
I don't think I
remember there was someone I knew in our neighborhood. They were like the length. Of
yeah.
The
they were long. So
yeah.
I think they doubled it over but my sister.
A mangle.
Do you know my sister?
God, we sound like 2 old crocs.
My sister.
On the day the miller made.
My sister irons her sheets.
With a mangle?
No, with an iron.
Wow.
Can you imagine?
I wonder, can people iron anymore?
I iron a little bit, but
I do.
Never iron my sheets. Ever. But
well,
I would love it if somebody else would.
Did it, yes.
Huh? Wouldn't that be nice?
I remember that's what I was talking to my mother once. I don't know, we were talking about something years later. And like, if you were rich, what would you like?
Yeah.
And I said something like, I'd love to have fresh flowers on my,
yes,
table.
Every day.
And my mother said, I'd like to have iron sheets every day. And I said, you have low expectations, Mother. But obviously at her time, when you're used to doing it, have someone else do it for you.
Mike from Philly writes, my quest is to have 365 pairs of underwear. Well, I understand that completely
who had
because
like 70 or something.
Well, sure, because lots of times people, rather than wash them, they just go out and buy some.
Well, right, but then you have this mound, like you're washing the underwear for the Steelers or something.
Oh, okay.
What a stupid discussion this is.
I know.
But it's nostalgic.
It's nostalgic. All right, enough of this. I want to talk about eunuchs.
Okay.
I thought eunuchs were.
If any eunuchs are listening, or if you've known one, would you please call in?
Okay, a eunuch. Just so we're clear, a eunuch is a castrated male, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it's
or gelded, as they say for cows and horses.
Okay, and it's the same as a castrati.
Yeah,
it would be a eunuch.
Yeah.
Now the castrati came about as a result of the Catholic Church, right?
Well, in the
circulating.
sense that they needed boy sopranos, and boy sopranos, as we know,
When they hit puberty, their voices
there was a
deepen,
very
so
interesting
they cut their
article.
balls off.
Right. There was a very interesting article in the New York Times Magazine a couple of weeks ago about the famous what do they call Vienna Boys Choir.
Yes.
And how because of
Puberty
post-toasties is coming earlier. And the only way really to preserve it is through hormonal treatment or castration. Of course, they don't do either. But that's what. So anyway, so they had boy sopranos, and then if children really had great talent, they would castrate them, and then they would be singers. And really, the castrati in the 17th century, there was a famous one named Farinelli who was painted by a number of people, and he was more famous than any of the female singers. Now, partly that was due to the fact that at one point, when the music was just liturgical as opposed to secular in the opera, only males could sing. So the soprano parts would be sung by
Yes.
a male soprano,
Yeah.
male.
Right.
Like today, they'll have people who are countertenors, they're called, which is not quite the same thing as a castrato, but very close. And but these castrati were not, we think of eunuchs and it's somehow less of a man. No, the castrati, they were castrated, but they still have erections and that, and they were quite
Virile looking.
virile. Now, looking, yes. Well, not necessarily. Some developed sort of breasts because they didn't have testosterone. But they would have affairs with women, but they just couldn't.
Produce sperm.
Yeah, exactly.
So you mean they could still have...
Get it up, as they say on
They
the streets.
could.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. I don't feel so sorry
If you're
for
ever in a compromising position with a eunuch, don't despair.
So you can be... I was raped by a eunuch.
Yeah.
You can be...
But you wouldn't have any DNA, I don't think.
Well, I asked
Now,
you this
why
because-
did we bring this up?
Because I was reading in the august New York Times
Yes.
today about the fact that I didn't realize this, there are an entire caste of eunuchs in India.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. I
And
can't remember what they're called. Did they give the word?
no, but they live in communes. They all live together, and they are granted
No balls in the hall.
They are granted, it says here, a rare space in public life, sort of like where rules don't apply to them.
We don't in terms
They
of...
have no social constraints. They're so like jesters in the king's court.
Well, for many years in Ottomans, well, I guess it would have been, what would it have been called back then?
What are we talking about?
Well, like when the Moorish society, no, not Moorish, what the hell was the word?
It doesn't matter.
Well, when the took over the Ottoman, I guess it was the
When
pre-Ottoman.
the bad guys took over,
Well, no,
those
but I don't
nice
know what they would
guys,
have been called.
Some
I
time to time.
don't want to say Islamic because that's modern.
It
but
doesn't
anyway. All right.
matter.
In the harems that the various sultans had, the people who would guard the harems would be eunuchs, because then the king wouldn't
That's
have
right.
to worry about his
That's
many
right.
wives getting knocked up by anyone other than himself.
That's right. I say harem.
Harem, I think it is.
We say harem. Where do you think you are? This is
Tomato.
Pittsburgh. The harem. Anyway,
Harem Scarum. Wasn't that a band in the 70s? I think so.
Hocus
Or Procol
Pocus.
Harum was the band.
Jesus Christ.
We're going off.
Almighty.
And we're not even on marijuana, ladies and
Oh,
gentlemen.
speak for yourself. All right,
Oh,
so-
I say.
No,
yes.
wait.
I've seen that Oib garden of yours.
So,
There's marijuana at the bottom of the garden along with the fairies.
will you calm down?
You brought it up, O'Queen.
All right, okay. So here, there's a whole thing. There's a eunuch who's running for The eunuchs are out there now, and they're running for political office and
Good for
stuff.
them. Good for them.
And the thing that surprised me in this is throughout the article, when they're talking about like this specific eunuch, Ramesh Kumar Lili, who wears a dress, a sari, and heavy makeup, and they call the eunuchs she. And in fact, one of the a woman who had been married to a guy who became a eunuch says, now he is a changed man. Yes, he is a woman. It was a shocking incident, but what can I do? Okay, so they believe that a eunuch is a female. And they isn't that odd, though? That's why I'm asking, because I'm confused. It's
I don't know enough about the various castes. No, because, other than being castrated, and there have been men castrated for
and they can't have
reasons or whatever.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that they remove their genitalia.
Well, it says here, in India, the hierarchy protected the eunuchs, but also controlled their behavior, enforcing strict bans on wearing male clothing. They have to present as female.
Okay.
And they also cannot have sexual intercourse in India. So who knows? Anyway, it says it goes back to the 16th to the 19th centuries.
Well, I'm sure I'm not sure if they had harems or harems, but they had something equivalent. The sultans often had many, many wives. I'm sure it was the same sort of role.
Well, it says here, too, that nowadays they, if you're having a big event, they'll do your event. They come and they dance and stuff. And I was
party planners of sorts.
Well, though they're sort of performers in a way, but
RuPaul.
RuPaul. But I was thinking how odd, because today I read in the paper that there's this, that you can hire local, like, football players and hockey players to come to your...
Say happy birthday to your
Or to
child.
bar mitzvah. So-and-so will do bar mitzvahs. So if you want a middle linebacker at your bar mitzvah to wow the crowd...
Baruch Franco Harris.
But I'm thinking how odd. So here you get
a eunuch. Well, but I think
eunuchs do the
but
same
also
thing.
didn't as I remember this, and this is in the far reaches of history in my brain.
Dexter writes, "You people wear underwear?
Okay.
Problem solved."
What was that word for that? Commando, wasn't it?
Is that when you don't wear underwear?
Yeah, you don't wear commando.
Well, here's Anthony wants to sign in on bounce. Lynn and Tom, bounce causes cancer? We suspect. An alternative to bounce sheets is a rolled up piece of aluminum foil in a ball. It will remove wrinkles.
I would think it would explode or something
no.
Oh, that's in the microwave.
In the microwave.
It'll blank and crackle, but no. Back to the eunuchs. They also had, in some Eastern cultures, sort of Middle Eastern cultures, almost a kind of quasi-holiness because they were somehow removed from male-female
they were otherly.
procreation.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. They were neither this nor that, so they're special.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. We got to take a break. God knows. We'll be back.
With Lynn Cullen live after this.
Pittsburgh City Paper's annual holiday guide magazine is available now. Pick up one today for great holiday gift ideas from your favorite local merchants and restaurants. Plus George Takei, Diego Garcia, Out of the Furnace, and News of the Weird. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com. On your smartphone at citypapermobile.com and check out the new CP Haps app, available for download from the iPhone App Store and Google Play.
Just in time for the holidays, Little's Shoes is your UGG headquarters. Little's has the largest selection of UGGs for men, women, and children to stay warm with shearling-lined boots, shoes, and slippers. Don't forget to get your hats, gloves, scarves, and more. Bring the entire family to view one of the largest in-store UGG shops in the U.S. All available at Little's Shoes, Pittsburgh's largest family shoe store. Forbes Avenue in Squirrel Hill or littleshoes.com.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn@pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen live.
All righty, and to continue the generally odd conversation.
Corporeal iniquities.
Corporeal. We go from eunuchs to
Starved movie actor.
Okay, so we wanted, Tom and I both seen the same movie, and we just want to talk about it a little bit because it has to do with the early years of the AIDS epidemic. And that movie is called Dallas Buyers Club, and it stars Matthew McConaughey in what some people are saying is an Oscar nominating for sure appearance. And he's a rodeo, like, cowboy type. Grifter. I mean, he's just a lowlife.
Sleazeball, right?
Yeah. Who gets AIDS is discovered in the last, he's given 30 days to live. And in fact, he goes on to live how many, like 8
years, yeah.
8 years. It's based on a true story. And he did it, by eschewing what the medical establishment was saying. Here's what we have to do for you. This is the only thing we can do, the only hope you have. And he was right. They were wrong.
Well, the film is, other than the specifics, as Lynn is saying correctly, about the AIDS crisis and that sort of trajectory.
So the year would have been what, about 1980?
3 or 4 or something like that, 85 maybe.
Yeah.
And basically, it's an indictment which continues today, not necessarily about AIDS, but about the FDA, because what is basically happening is at first no one knew what AIDS was. And first it was first called GRID, gay-related immune deficiency. That was the first word for AIDS.
That.
Yeah, that was early on. And then finally, the issue was, as with any drug under the FDA, it can only be put into popular usage once there have all been first animal testing and then human testing, and that takes years. And on the one side, the FDA and others can say, well, we don't want to put something in because we certainly know of drugs that were rushed to usage too soon and people's noses fell off, So they put it in, but the point with AIDS, it was a question that this was something that because it was infectious and was spreading so quickly, was there perhaps a reason to push those trials forth? And where this was exacerbated was the fact that some of these drugs were drugs that were already in use but for other diseases in this country. So they were legal but not prescribed. And then there are other drugs that were prescribed in Germany or Japan or what have you.
But we're not legal here.
But we're not here. And then there were other treatments in places like Mexico and Japan with various herbal treatments. And then certainly interferon, which was already being used for various kinds of cancer and leukemia and what have you. And this guy who at the beginning is this homophobic grifter cowboy, all of a sudden gets shocked. Like when he's first told, you have the first 3 minutes of the movie, you have 30 days to live, and he says Ron Woodruff, which was his name, ain't dying and ain't no homo kind of thing. And then he starts reading up and starts this, and why it's called Dallas Buyers Club was that obviously he was not a physician or any kind of medical practitioner, and he couldn't prescribe, but he finds out that around the world and then in the country, places like, this is in Houston, I think, wasn't it, or Dallas? Dallas, yeah, of course, title of the movie. But in San Francisco and New York, there are already these buyers clubs.
And people, groups of people infected with AIDS created these clubs.
Right. So you had a membership.
So you would join the club and in this case throw in $400, and those were your dues. And with your dues and club membership came access to
these drugs.
All these drugs. So that they were not selling the drug. It was a brilliant way to get around the law.
It would be like you're in a canasta club and you just happen to get your barbitol every month.
But they were getting the drugs, though, were still being gotten illegally. Well, how would these clubs have access to these drugs?
Well, right. And
they're trucking them in.
The funny part of the movie was at first this guy goes to Texas where there's an American doctor working on all of these. Well, first he had AZT. We'll get to that in a second. And then all sorts of, I remember, wasn't it Steve McQueen, the actor, was with his was cancer, but what was it? Apricot pits. Remember that?
Yeah.
And then he starts flying to Japan for the interferon, and each time he flies back, because people are beginning to recognize him, one time he comes across as a priest, another time he dresses up as a pilot, and his luggage would just be jam-packed with all this stuff. But one of the things was just when he's at the beginning and he's seeing this clinic intermittently because he has these attacks in the hospital, and this one young doctor played by
Ben Affleck's wife, Jennifer Garner.
Jennifer Garner, yeah, who is sympathetic to him after a point. And at that point, well, then the other sort of corruption.
We don't want to tell that. What are we telling the story for?
Well, because
we don't want to ruin the story for people.
Okay.
We don't.
Well, no, just to this part.
But I just think the whole thing about AZT and the FDA in this movie come off as thugs.
Well, the one thing is AZT was at first thought to be the drug.
People.
And it's very interesting because Jennifer Garner is the younger doctor, and the really great actor Dennis Dennis O'Hare, who played the older doctor. He's a great actor on Broadway, what have you. He is saying, well, we're not really, and she keeps saying, oh, well, I don't know about this AZT. I've read this report. He keeps saying, well, if we take part in the trials with our patients, the hospital gets a ton of money.
I know. You see the money involved in the big pharma and the corruption of it, where you lose total sight of what it's about, which is helping people.
Right. Well, and as he says, he said, all right, I have a lot of money. I want to get on this trial. And she said, well, even we don't know, because in all these trials, as you probably know,
they're blind studies.
There are placebos getting sugar pills. And he said, I don't want that. I want the real drug. So, anyway, we won't tell you the rest. But the whole point is this money issue. But also the truth of it was that AZT was killing but it was hideously expensive. It was like $20,000 a year.
AZT, the way they initially were using it, was killing these people.
And it was extremely carcinogenic.
Because it killed everything. It killed the AIDS virus. It also killed the patient. So it took a long time to figure out that AZT had a place.
Yeah, if you
but it was part of
just a
little. But this rodeo cowboy already knew that. That's what's so mind-boggling when you see that someone just reading all the literature, doing
in the library,
can figure, and a guy who, and there was a truth in this story.
Exactly.
It was amazing, and you see how bureaucracy and the power and egos and money, how it corrupts everything, and nothing's different today.
No, exactly.
Nothing is different today.
Exactly.
So I think the movie was a real eye-opener about something that we all have some memory of.
To make a Pittsburgh connection, when I first came here, there was a fellow who I knew, I don't know what's happened to him, and was very prominent in the gay community here. And he was really one of the few doctors dealing with AIDS here. And his sort of claim to fame was that he was doing exactly this, except that he was a doctor, but using drugs that, let's say, you were using for athlete's foot.
You're not talking about Sam.
No, not Sam.
Okay.
Sam Sam
Golden.
Sam Golden was this other fellow was a real doctor too, but Sam Golden was the first one to treat people. But this fellow, whose name I won't mention, believed, and he would go around the country, like every day he'd be in a different city, using, like, as I said, athlete's foot drugs to cure AIDS or something. So it was a little different since he was a doctor and these were approved drugs, but not for... But the reason a lot of people have been interested in this film is not, unfortunately, for the AIDS crisis and history thereof, but for the fact that the main character, this man, Ron Woodruff, is played by the actor Matthew McConaughey, who most people think of as, this real hunky, ripped guy. And he lost 45 pounds, so he really looks like this emaciated...
He looks skeletal. It's amazing. And I recommend the movie for his performance. I also recommend the movie for who's going to definitely be supporting actor nominee, Jared Leto.
Who plays a drag queen.
Just incredible.
Oh, but incredible. I mean, he's a very pretty man. But he dressed not like a drag queen like RuPaul, who's over the top and wearing pasties and whatever, but just someone who looks like white trash.
Yeah.
And the two of them are just fantastic. It's a very, very interesting film. And talk about brilliant acting on the part of both of them. It's
and
amazing.
also a bit of history. But I mean, Tom, who has told us in the past, who was very active in the early days of this
pandemic.
Horrible, horrible pandemic. Yeah.
It was the 25th anniversary on Sunday of Day Without Art, this
Group
event we did, or World AIDS Day, as some people would call it.
Yeah.
And great strides have been made, but people are still. But there was just something in, I think it was the Times, maybe the local paper covered it as well, about rates going up again, young gay men.
Because as soon as something
in,
seems, to be gone. And what is it? Every generation has to learn these lessons for themselves.
Yeah.
It's too bad. It's too bad. That
well, I think the minute now, and in this article also was started about a young woman who has been ill, full-blown AIDS for 29 years, and has had bad moments, and she has been to the hospital 300 times, but she's still alive. She can work, and so it's a chronic disease now. But I think people feel like, also young people feel invulnerable to anything. Old age, not having to have health or car insurance or anything, because they're never going to get in an accident. They're vulnerable.
They'll live forever.
It's Peter Panism.
I know. I thought that until about last week.
Here's some. I'll be Tinkerbell. Here's some fairy dust.
Silver threads among the gold. You are old, Father William. That's what. Do you remember that poem?
No.
I think it might be A.A. Milne. Same guy who did Winnie the Pooh. Is that true? It starts out with, "You are old, Father William." I had reason to quote that to my brother, Bill.
No.
You are old.
Do you remember any more of it? Or just the first line?
But we'll Google it.
Yes.
If somebody will send me, "You are old, Father William."
Or even better, if you can call and not by rote, just say it to us.
No, I would love to do an oral rendition. You are old.
As only Lynn Cullen can do.
Yes, indeedy. Okay, you guys. Quick break. We'll be back.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Dave, what are you doing?
Just sending a gift to Dave 2037.
Who?
Me in the future. I save a little money from every paycheck for Dave 2037 so he can buy anti-gravity boots or a hologram Doberman. What are you getting Steve 2037?
Steve 2037 will be just fine.
Well, okay, but don't expect to borrow my anti-gravity boots.
Save something for the future. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
Go to the all-new bergbargains.com for great deals on holiday gift cards from your favorite local restaurants, bars, museums, attractions, and shows. Log on now for great deals from Sephora, Atria's, Fair Day, P.F. Chang's, and Kohl's. Supplies are limited. The all-new bergbargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains, bergbargains.com.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
I found it. It's Lewis Carroll, not...
Okay.
So it's Alice in Wonderland guy, not Winnie the Pooh.
When they'd have these evenings in people's houses in Victorian and Edwardian times, Lynn will now do her turn piece.
Yes. "You are old, Father William," the young man said, "and your hair has become very white, and yet you incessantly stand on your head. Do you think, at your age, it is right?" "In my youth," Father William replied to his son, "I feared it would injure the brain. But now that I'm perfectly sure I have none, why, I do it again and again." "You are old," said the youth, "as I mentioned before, and have grown most uncommonly fat. Yet you turned a back somersault in at the door. Pray, what's the reason for that?" "In my youth," said the sage, as he shook his gray locks, "I kept all my limbs very supple. By the use of this ointment, 1 shilling the box, allow me to sell you a couple." "You are old," said the youth, "and your jaws are too weak for anything tougher than suet. yet you finished the goose and the bones and the beak. Pray, how did you manage to do it? In my youth, said his father, I took to the law and argued each case with my wife. And the muscular strength which it gave to my jaw has lasted the rest of my life. You are old, said the youth, who would hardly suppose that your eye was as steady as ever, one would hardly suppose, yet you balanced an eel on the end of your nose. What made you so awfully clever? I have answered 3 questions, and that is enough, said his father. Don't give yourself airs. Do you think I can listen all day to such stuff? Be off, or I'll kick you downstairs. That is not said... Oh. So that's in the middle of Alice in Wonderland.
I guess.
Because then Alice comes in and says, that is not right, said the caterpillar. Oh, not quite right, I'm afraid, said Alice timidly. Some of the words have gotten altered. It is wrong from beginning to end, said the caterpillar decidedly. And there was silence. So that was just, so it just goes off. Be off or I'll kick you downstairs. Well, maybe one of the... someone at the tea party must have...
Maybe. Well, I'm just wondering, are they talking about, does he... No, he doesn't screw up the rhyme. The rhyme goes...
No. So the poem, Father William poem, ends with, be off or I'll kick you downstairs.
Which is appropriate ending, yeah.
Well, sorry about that. Anyway, so...
She spilled her piece, ladies. Back to the scullery kitchen.
Oh, my God. What a bizarro show. I'm sorry. I don't know what we're doing.
Oh, we're doing Varia for the holidays.
Okay, and I do want to say this.
Oh, please.
Okay. I've noted with some delight that the underpaid in the United States appear to finally be roused. And it's happening in various venues. This chasm, this craziness that's occurred economically in this country. And the only way it's ever going to be resolved is for the lowly to rise. And I just want to say that it's time that we all got behind these efforts that I can see.
Give me some examples.
The fast food worker strikes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? Now, that's happening. It's come to Pittsburgh. I'm not sure exactly which outlets are going to see strikes, but it says here that fast food workers in as many as 100 cities in this country tomorrow are going to walk off the job. Wow. Now, that's wonderful. That's amazing.
Was this someone prompted by the Walmart thing? Or
no. It's been going on in little, I think it started in New York. There have been these very courageous people. Sure. And this would mark the largest effort yet. They are asking to double their pay. Now, they're not going to get it, but you might be able to
half again.
Get. Yeah. So what I was thinking of saying to you is that this needs to be supported. And
this will be a no McMuffin Friday.
Yes, no, tomorrow. Do not.
Friday. Yeah, Friday.
Do not.
Thursday.
And if, I've been known to frequent the drive-through.
The Golden Arches.
Yes, I'll do them. Wendy's. I Burger King. I'm horrible.
A fast food slut.
Yeah, I am. So here's what I was thinking. Here's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
I'm going to go to. You can't do it in the car. You have to go in. You have to ask for the manager, and you have to say, I've been coming here for 15 years. I'm done. I am done, and I want it noted, and I want you to make sure that whoever's over your head knows it. And if more and more people did that and said, I really am not, I'm not buying here anymore. You got to support these workers.
A jingle like, tell the colonel up yours.
Well, I don't think that's particularly clever.
Well, everyone knows what it means.
Yeah,
although you can't go to McDonald's and say that, but...
So I really think for those of us who decry this kind of, these wages and this, here's an opportunity to we've got to figure out how to help this effort. And ideally,
Well, that's right.
there
You
will
hit
be
them
a
where it
day
hurts.
when literally every damn worker and every damn thing walks off. This would get some corporate attention.
Of course.
The only way this kind of thing works is if it grows and grows and grows until it is. So please, the workers need to be supported, and the way they're supported is you've got to let these restaurants know that they've lost your money.
Well, it's interesting. I did that. This is about a couple of years ago.
We've got a caller.
Oh, okay.
Hello, caller. Hello.
Hello, Lynn.
Yeah.
Hey, Lynn, Mike Cullen. Hey, Lynn, I couldn't disagree more with you, though, about this issue. Here's why. I think when this happens, when this occurs, you're going to hurt the small business owner who's trying to make a living running his restaurant. We need to get the fat cats who are making $31 million a year as a corporate executive. We need to attack that kind of greed. When it usually happens, we try to attack. We think we're like I say, if you want to double everybody's wages, well, there'll be no more fast food restaurants. You won't be. It'll hurt yourself.
But wait a minute. No, I think it'll hurt myself in that a Big Mac's going to cost more. Fine, let it cost more.
I agree, but we're attacking the wrong. It's going to affect the wrong person. The people at the very, very top don't care.
But
so you're going to affect the person who's a restaurant owner. Say he has a store and he has only
We're not going after ma and pa restaurant owners. We're going after these corporate.
But that's who owns. But my point is that's who owns most of the restaurants we attend. I go to the fast food restaurants. I know what you're saying. I understand. We need to. What I'm frustrated with is the amount the CEOs to corporate greed. But
no.
I think we got.
No, but he's
one
right.
country over, and I think it was over in New Zealand, just about a month ago, tried to make it that the average CEO or the most the CEO could make was 12 times the average worker.
Right.
Well, that can't happen in this country.
Oh, people are freaking out. If you go to the boards, the comments in this country, everybody hates you. You would get the vitriol would come at you. It's so astounding. And I'm saying, what the hell's wrong with you? Do you think people deserve to make $25 million or $50 million as a corporate? Well, what decision-making ability do you have that you can command that much money?
Right.
Nobody.
One thing the gentleman says.
Come on now.
Okay.
One thing the gentleman says is right. Is that remember the steel situation in Pittsburgh? They could certainly have raised the wages, but the people, the owners, did not want to lose their profits, so they closed down the steel
Okay. Well,
industry.
so wait a minute.
So he's right on a certain
Okay. Well, but wait a minute here. We are subsidizing the reason these guys have the money to pay all these outlandish salaries is because they are subsidized by the government of the United States, by the taxpayers of this country, by virtue of the fact that we allow them to pay their employees slave wages. Those employees end up on Medicaid's doorstep.
I agree.
On food stamps. And
here's what I think the problem is. I'm losing my train of thought here, but you've got it's like a war. We have a war to poor people right now, okay, and it's going to explode one of these days because what's going to happen? It's going to be. Oh, here's my point.
It is exploding.
The government doesn't control anything. Everybody's worried about the Tea Party's worried about the government. Here's who they should be worried about. Here's who anybody should be worried about: multinational corporations. They have no boundaries.
I agree.
They have no rules. They have no soul.
Mike, I absolutely agree with you, and I've said before, nation states, governments are not as powerful in this world, in this
as
global economy, as multinational corporations.
Exactly.
I know that, and people do know that, and they control these governments.
Exactly.
They scare these governments, including our own.
Of
which has
course.
been okay, but so I don't understand how you can, if you say people are going to, I'm telling you it's starting from the bottom. That's where it will start, from the bottom. And we belong with those people on the bottom.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I 100% agreement with you.
Well, but he's talking about the mechanics of doing it.
The 1%ers can't control everything. You can't have all the power in the hands of a 1% or 0.5% of the whole country.
Well, that is pretty much what we do have, but that is because the sleeping giant of the people has not risen.
Exactly.
And their greed, the 1%ers, is finally getting to the point where you see the murmurings.
I agree. That's true. That's true. The fires are starting to burn a little bit. The embers are starting to get a little bit hot. And that's a good thing to see.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for your
Thank
call.
you, Lana.
The other thing I'm seeing, and I was thinking that I saw somewhere in the paper today, I think it was in the New York Times, that the adjuncts at the universities, which we've talked about many times, that is growing and growing and growing.
Right.
And they'll rise up. And they could take these universities down.
Well, thus far they have. I mean,
shut them down.
NYU for 2.5 years had this strike, and finally
okay, but if it's global, I'm telling you, if you get...
Don't scream.
So, this is where, behind all of this is one union. All of this turmoil is one union.
Right.
And I'm thinking I'd like to give this union money. It's the SEIU. This is the future of the labor movement. Service employees.
Yeah, that's true.
International.
Because I think that's why a lot of the unions sort of have lost power, because number one, they're not the low jobs that they were.
Well, they're
before.
blue collar. These are
on the bulwarks.
The service employees.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is where these are the people that are. The whole economy would come to a grinding halt without them, but they are being screwed. Caller, go ahead.
Hi, it's the bearer of bad news always. But I'm going to say one thing. You want the economy to grow, you raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. You'll have more jobs created because people will be spending money. You put the money in the right people's hands and spend it, not the people at the top. The economy will grow.
Absolutely
true.
Simple
as that.
Sure.
Simple as that.
We'll see you.
Thank you. The common man speaks.
Yeah. Right.
Who needs some economist at the University of Chicago?
Sure.
Give people a living wage. They will spend their money. The economy. People will
invest. They'll create. Yeah, exactly.
But I'm telling you, your fast food cravings. How about? It's not like you'll starve to death, right?
Well, it's very interesting. On a more minor level, they're one of the better brands of pasta that you can get in this country at a reasonable price is Barilla.
Yeah.
And the head of Barilla in Italy, I think in Milano,
I know,
made this comment about, because someone was saying, why don't you show your ads like gay people buying? He said, I'll never have fags shown eating my pasta. And already they found it started outside of Italy, but now in Italy, the guy
feeling it.
Hasn't recanted, but he's feeling it.
They're feeling the pinch. But again, I mean, if we want to help these guys, you need to let the restaurant know.
Right.
And
I did that, I guess about 2 years ago on another issue, Whole Foods, which I like, and I like their produce, et cetera, et cetera. I can't remember, maybe it was the beginnings of Obamacare, and their management was totally horrible. And so I said, I went to the clerk the first time, and I said, would you please pass on, or do you have a little, those little signs you figure out, that to your management, and have them pass it on to the corporate management, that, I love your store, but your corporate people have a monstrous policy about the upcoming health care, whatever it was. I won't say right now. I said, you can pass it on. So the next time I asked for a man, and I bought a ton of stuff. And I said, I shop here, I've shopped here since you've opened, but, we'll tell managers, sir, but it might not help. But I said to the line of people, if any of you agree with me, tell this man. And if he has 10 people, he has to report back. And I said, sir, if you're a good manager, you will report back. It's not your fault. Never heard anything, of course. But I said, here's my, have them write me. And
Nothing.
Well,
that tells you something, too. Ray writes in, I read that if McDonald's doubled all wages, including the CEO on down, the impact, a Big Mac, the cost of a Big Mac would go up 39 cents. It's not economic. It's a philosophy of manipulation. And this crap always that, if you do it, then there won't be any jobs. So the job creators will stop creating jobs. Bull. is all I have to say. Bull. Call their idiotic bluff. This is crap. It's swallowing the right-wing Republican apologists for everything capitalist line. Hey, we got the Pope on our side, and he was a bar bouncer.
So screw you.
Yeah. But
Francis will take you down.
Send the SEIU money. Go out and become a union organizer for the SEIU. I think I might.
No, this would be the most. You and I will go and apply for a job in one of the suburbs and be like the nastiest. What do you want? I'd turn people away. Wouldn't that be? That would be hilarious.
We could get a
There's
job.
really dog and goat meat in those burgers, ladies and gentlemen. Watch out for the gristle.
Yeah, as you're at the window and you hand the bag to someone, say, "Hey, let me tell you how many people spit in that."
You have the old Chinese takeaway story.
Right. Oh, my Lord. All right.
That'd be fun, wouldn't it be? You'd be like Ethel and Lucy at the chocolate factory. For those of your listeners old enough to remember that.
You undermine from
from
within.
the front lines, yes.
I told you where undermine comes from, didn't I?
No.
Because on my trip to Scotland this year.
Oh, with the
in St. Andrews.
Who talked.
No. In St. Andrews, I was visiting the remains of the castle down the road from where I was sleeping, and the story there was that. Well, I won't go into who was who, but it was Christian on Christian at the time, and it was about the 1500s. Okay,
16th century.
16th century. So, the one side that wasn't in the castle just started digging outside the castle.
Okay.
And they dug, and they dug, and they dug, and they dug down, and then they dug under.
And then up, right.
And up. And that is an undermine.
Oh, okay.
And their intent was not to go up and start battling them. Their intent was actually to undermine
that if they did it in enough places, the wall would just collapse.
It just comes down. So that's where that
that's
term
right.
comes from.
I remember sometime reading about something in the Middle Ages that literally that's what they would do, and these ramparts would just go.
That's right.
Thank you. That was a very good.
We all learned something.
Thing. Yes, this is a good show.
Well, at least we ended on something of some substance.
Yes, exactly.
Mr. Sokolowski.
From eunuchs to the Pope to undermining and undergarments.
And undergarments! Wow!
This is a show for everyone.
Yes, a little something for everybody.
The brilliant and the dumb. You are old, Lynn Cullen.
I know I am. I saw a funny piece by P.J. O'Rourke over the weekend in the Wall Street Journal. He said, this generation of baby boomers, he said, if we weren't so busy pretending we're still young, we'd be old. Yeah.
But that's part of baby boomers.
Well, he pointed out what I haven't realized. The youngest baby boomers are now turning 50.
Yeah, because what was it, 1963, I think?
Something like that. It was 60-something, early 60.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that tells you something.
And I ain't one of the younger baby boomers. I'm one of the older ones.
Ditto. Well, not one of the oldest.
Well,
it started
46.
46, okay.
My brother was born in 46.
Okay.
He's the oldest baby boomer. The very oldest, which is why I said to him,
boomed out.
You are old, Father William. And he could no more do a somersault inside the door or stand on his head than I.
Or put a snake on his nose, or what was the other thing?
Balance an eel.
An eel
on the end of his nose. All right. Toodaloo. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.